So an ultra high resolution of the GTA 6 trailer has been found, and honestly it's insane. So when you upload a video to YouTube, it naturally has compression. Now the compression on YouTube isn't as bad as some other platforms, it's not as bad as Instagram, Facebook or anything like that, but it's still not perfect. However, there's kind of a Chinese version of YouTube called Bilibili, and Rockstar of course also uploaded the GTA 6 trailer to that website too. However, on Bilibili it has far less compression. So on YouTube the GTA 6 trailer has a 10K bitrate, whereas on the Bilibili website it has a 17K bitrate. Now bitrate versus resolution is really difficult to explain, but essentially what this means is basically the amount of information contained is higher. So rather than losing like 50 to 70% of the trailer quality, it's fair to assume that Bilibili's website has probably only lost a marginal amount. Now I very quickly just want to go through the trailer and show you some of the differences that we can see. So for example, in this shot here, in the one on YouTube, a lot of the hair seems kind of wispy and wiry because some of the hairs, the strands are smaller than the pixels that we can see on YouTube. However, in this shot, we can see a lot more detail. The same goes for the dust particles that we can see on the left. And when Lucia turns around, we can see on her face, especially on her forehead, the amount of detail that has come back that was lost in the original trailer. The same thing can be said for this shot where we have Stephanie's hair. In the trailer that we see on YouTube, her hair looks really wiry and really thin, but in this shot here, we can see every single strand. The difference in quality is honestly phenomenal. Now when it comes to this beach scene, one of the side effects of having a reduced bitrate is actually a reduced dynamic range as well. As we can see from this beach scene, it almost looks like a photograph. The sand looks really overexposed at the bottom of the photo, and of course as the light tapers off into the distance, the sand gets darker. We can also see recovered texture back in the skin, and also the characters look far less plasticky. From trailer 1, a lot of people's concerns were that the characters looked a bit too plasticky and a bit fake. We can clearly see now that this primarily came down to YouTube's compression, not Rockstar Games or the trailer itself. Another thing to note is that these reflections look absolutely insane. I'm having to blur this bit because I don't want to get demonetized on YouTube. Once again, we have the scattered reflections on Lucia's face. In this shot here, we can see imperfections in the skin way clearer than we could on the YouTube version of this video. And for this shot, if we really zoom in, we can actually see some of the details in this car park. And if we look into the distance, the water and the way that the waves are generated looks far more less uniform. Now in the original trailer we could see that a lot of the areas of water just looked like really good water, but now we can actually see some of the detail within the water. Now with this shot, once again zooming in, we can see some of the detail on this shirt, but we can also see some of the detail on the inside of this door. And obviously just talking about water, we can also see the exact same here. The wake coming from the back of the boats looks far more realistic than it did in the trailer on YouTube, and overall we can just see a lot more detail. Now in this shot we can also see more imperfections in the skin. This was one of the shots that a lot of people brought up as looking rather plasticky. Definitely is not the case that when we zoom in. Same thing can be applied to this shot here. Even at this distance, what supposedly is for a social media post in the game, we can still see detail in people's arms and faces. Now unfortunately we also got back some of the detail in this shot, so we'll move on very quickly. However, the grass does look absolutely incredible. Now in this shot we can see some of the detail in this character's tongue. Some of this data was definitely lost on the YouTube version of this video. Now in this shot we can see more detail in the police cars, but we can also see a much larger draw distance. In the trailer that we saw on YouTube, a lot of these features in the background weren't necessarily like blurred out, but some of the lines were missing. Once again, this is another of those shots that is genuinely really impressive. Jason's face and the detail that we can see in his stubble and also the wrinkles around his eyes looks absolutely amazing. Seeing this data being recovered from the trailer is even more incredible, as we never even realized we were missing it in the first place. Now once again, this is another one of those shots that people said looked kind of plasticky in the original trailer, and in this shot here we can see that a lot of that detail has been restored, especially around the forehead and underneath the eyes. Now in this shot we can see some of the imperfections in Lucia's face being brought back to the video. In the YouTube version of this, you couldn't really see any texture to her forehead, but of course in this one we can. And once again, a similar thing applies to this shot. If we look at the back of the car, we can see all of the imperfections in the paintwork, and we can see reflections on parts of the paint where there's still lacquer on the car. Obviously this isn't a major detail, but it's still cool nonetheless to see that this detail was there, and it was a lot harder to see in the original trailer. Then of course we have these shots here, which really don't need much explanation. The detail that's been recovered from these shots is absolutely insane. So yeah, this actual full video is linked down below, so go and check it out if you want to see this full, less compressed version of the trailer. It is still compressed, but nowhere near as much as the YouTube version. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.